Hi yogis, how are you today? I'm Amber and this is Restorative. What you'll need today, a bolster or a thicker pillow. We're going to be resting on our belly at some point, so whatever might lift you up a little bit, but make sure that you are relaxed here in the front body. You're going to want a blanket or a towel, maybe two. And blocks if you have them too for a little bit of support. We may or may not use those. So, getting yourself comfortable, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take a blanket or a towel and you're going to roll it up long. So a nice tight little roll here. And so what we're going to do with this, once we get it all rolled up, is we're going to rest it kind of underneath our armpits. And you can use your bolster to put your knees on top of if you'd like. You can rest another blanket or a block for your head. And so what you're going to do is you're going to rest back on this. And I'd like it right around the shoulder blades. So kind of, it's almost as if it's an extension coming out of your armpit. And so you can rest back. And so you just find this soft opening here in the chest. And then find a place that the arms feel good. And I might suggest, instead of rather resting them on your belly or your heart space at this time, maybe finding somewhere above the head or extension like a T, or even goddess arms might feel really good to you. And then get your legs situated so they feel comfortable. And as always, give your body an opportunity to acclimate, especially if you've been holding a lot of stress in your shoulders. This might feel a tad uncomfortable to begin. But just breathe into it and just start to allow the body to soften. Taking the gaze up towards the ceiling. And you can, if you have a little fidget in you right now, you can go ahead and find some movement, maybe rotating through the ankles. You can even take a big solid stretch and hug in the belly and big inhale, and relax and release. And then once you get yourself settled in and settled down, you can close your eyes or let them gaze softly towards the ceiling. And just allow this space behind the shoulders to relax. Let the chest broaden across. Letting the arms relax and feel heavy wherever they might lie. And begin to connect with the breath. Maybe you start by noticing the tip of the nose. Maybe feeling the temperature. At the very, very tip of the nose. And then begin to notice the air as it comes in the nose. So the cooler air as you breathe in, and the warmer air as you breathe out. And we're just concentrating at the tip of the nose for now. And then once you get a sense of that, then you can start to follow the breath into the belly or the chest and find that connection of the breath to the body. And then I'd like to read a quote to you. I watched a presentation with Deepak Chopra a little while ago, and I don't believe it was his quote, so I'm not quoting him directly. And he thought it might have been Rumi. He wasn't positive where the quote came, but I thought it was really beautiful. It is those seen dancing were thought to be mad by those who could not hear the music. And I love that so much, because there's so many times in our lives that we decide to do things and we worry about what other people think. We worry if we're doing the right thing. Are we looking silly? Is this ridiculous? And honestly, who cares? One of my favorite things to do in life is dance, and I'll be the first to admit I do not dance like most people, but it makes me feel so free. And so I ask you to dive inside yourself, and not necessarily thinking about yourself busting a move, but what is there in your life that you are trying to do, to manifest right now that doesn't quite, you don't quite have that punch yet that is putting you forward to do it. Maybe you're worried about putting yourself out there. And maybe today, as you set an intention for your class, you can, say a little prayer to yourself to begin this manifestation, to really let this creativity, whatever it is, and it doesn't have to be some kind of art form, it doesn't have to be dancing, it can, it can be cooking, or, gosh, I don't know, anything that makes your heart sing. And maybe you can set a little intention towards that today in your practice. Something beautiful just for you that comes from your heart that maybe you want to share with the world. And even though somebody else doesn't, think it's perfect, who cares? It is perfect. It's a manifestation from your heart. And just sit with that for a few moments as we breathe and enjoy some stillness. Keeping the expression on the face soft. Noticing any tension in the body. Begin to deepen the breath. Start to let a smile peek in the corners of the mouth. Find a little movement in the fingers and the toes. And then when you're ready, you're going to come into an upright position. And you're going to take your thicker pillow or your bolster and a blanket. And you're going to rest the bolster long on the mat. And there is a possibility for those of you that have a little bit longer torsos that you may need a little support above your bolster. So maybe another pillow, or you can put your blocks there. And so what we're going to do is we're going to come into half frog. So you're going to kind of come into tabletop position and then lay yourself down on your bolster, and you want your pelvis to be supported on the bolster. And this is kind of where the extra padding comes in for the head. And I'd like you to face the camera for now so we can see how we're doing it. And then you're going to draw whatever leg is facing the camera out so the knee comes out from your hip, and then just let the foot, if you can keep the leg bent, that would be awesome. I don't know, it might be comfortable if you stretch it out, but try to keep it bent. And then you're going to turn your head to face the camera. Let your arms relax out. So we're kind of relaxing through the upper part of the hip here, relaxing through the low back. You might find if you have a little bit of trouble in the psoas or the piriformis, this might feel super relaxing to you, because we're letting those muscles just release. And then, of course, we want a nice broad span across the shoulders. And then just find your breath. And as always, if this doesn't feel good sitting on a bolster or a pillow, then you can always come on down to the floor. Making sure that you pad your head so your neck feels good. And if it doesn't feel super good to turn your neck, you can take that support and push it out just a little bit so your chin relaxes on the end of the bolster and the forehead rests on top of whatever your support is. So you have space for your nose, of course, because you want to be able to breathe, but that might feel nice and relaxing as well. And then maybe take a few deep breaths into the back of the rib cage and then soften. Begin to deepen your breath. Start to wiggle the fingers and the toes. And we're going to move into a supported child's pose. But I would like, if it feels comfortable, for you to keep your legs together instead of widening out the knees. So again, if you just want to come to child's pose on the floor without support, that's totally up to you. If you want to kind of build up your bolster here, and then just kind of find your supported child's pose in whatever way feels comforting to you. Taking a couple of super deep breaths into the back body. And if you'd like, you can take your fingertips to your toes and relax through the shoulders as well. We'll just spend a few more minutes here. Just relaxing into the breath. And then when you're ready, palms to the floor, draw yourself up. And if you want to, you can stretch out the legs behind you for a moment. Maybe finding a little movement in the neck. And then we're going to go ahead and move into frog on the opposite side. So keeping the pillow or bolster where it was, taking your padding for your other knee to the other side, and then go ahead and relax it down. Finding support for the forehead, and bring that knee up. Taking a couple of moments to get really cozy, and you might notice that this hip feels a little bit different, or maybe even the inner thigh, because we're stretching the inner thigh in the shape as well, might feel a little different. And just notice, as always, make yourself as comfortable as you possibly can. That is what restorative yoga is all about. So please take time to feather that nest and really nestle yourself down. And then the nose is going to be turned towards the bent knee, or you can rest your forehead on top of your support in front of your bolster. Noticing the breath, making sure that it feels soft and slow and full. And the exhale releases any tension you might possibly be feeling in the body. If your mind starts to wander, come back to the breath. Deepen the breath. Straighten out the bent leg when you're ready. Bringing the palms beside the bolster, and go ahead and lift yourself up and begin to find a little bit of movement again in the legs. And then just for a moment, you might scoot the bolster up. We're going to plop our bottoms down and just rest onto your back. Go ahead and keep the knees bent. You can find constructive resting pose, drawing the knees together and just letting them rest. And then just come back on your bolster. And we're just going to be here for a few moments. If it will feel better, since we've had the legs bent just a little, to relax the legs out long, go ahead and do that. A couple of different options for you. And then just find the breath. Taking a deep inhale, letting the breath fill up the belly, pushing the belly up towards the sky, and releasing with a big sigh. Do that 2 more times. Big inhale into the belly, and exhale. Once more. And release. Take about 1 more minute here to notice any tension in the body and to let it relax. So all you are going to do to move into our next shape, bring the soles of the feet to the floor if they're not already. Kind of lift up your hips. And we're going to swing them away from your computer or whatever you're watching this on, so that the closest hip to your smart device is going to come and settle on the floor. And you're going to draw the knees together. And then if you need to make any adjustments in the chest, you can. But we're going to move into this twist. And if you feel like your knee is just kind of not supported at all, if you're feeling real tight in that low back, grab yourself a blanket or a block and let that leg rest on top of that. And then once again, open up through the chest. And this way you can just relax through the neck. If you feel you need a little bit of extra support in the back, you can take a blanket or something and kind of rest it right up against the low back there, and then relax onto it to give you a little extra support. It feels really good. And then just soften the body. Start to deepen the breath a little. And then when you're ready, start to find a little bit of movement, drawing the knees back into the center. Shifting the hips back down. And we're just going to roll the upper body towards the knees for just a second. And we're just going to find a little hidey hole here and take the forehead and rest it towards the knees. Let's go ahead and take whatever props you had, shift them to the opposite side if you think you'll use them. Set your bottom back up to the end of the bolster and rest yourself back. Soles of the feet to the floor, lift up those hips and then shift that hip towards the floor. So this time the hip that is away from your smart device. And then pad up as needed. And I actually just discovered that I kind of like a block underneath my feet here. So my knees can rest on the ground, but my feet are propped up and they don't feel like they're flailing. And then I'm going to prop up my arm a little bit too. The opposite arms, the arm that is opposite of the direction my knees are pointed. Because I'm a little tight on this side and I kind of felt like my arm was just floating out in space. And then come back here and find the breath. Taking a few deep inhales and big exhales as you settle in, noticing the difference in between how this side might feel as opposed to the other side. Feeling into any tension and letting it dissipate with the breath. Softening through the expression. Releasing any tension you might be holding through the legs. Begin to let your breath deepen. And when you're ready to start moving, you can find some wiggle in the fingers, maybe the toes. And then begin to set the props off to the side and draw the feet back to the floor, lifting the hips slowly and gently. And then sitting back down and drawing yourself up to your knees once again. Find that little hidey hole of yours to kind of release the back, the low back. Drawing the chin to the chest. And then lifting the head back up, taking a deep breath. Let's go ahead and find our Shavasana. So final resting pose, blanket under the head, bolster under the knees perhaps, if your low back is feeling a little tight. Or you can just rest flat on your back, whatever feels best in your body. That is what you want to do. And then once you find a space where you can relax down, close the eyes, and with each breath, soften through the body. Releasing any tension in the space between the eyes, letting the eyes float softly in the sockets. Relaxing the skull against the mat or your blanket or pillow. Letting the shoulders rest against the floor. The arms feel heavy. The fingers feel light. You recognize this beautiful exchange between the breath and the body as you inhale and exhale, feeling the chest and the belly react and settle. Feeling the back of the hips resting against the floor. The backs of the legs resting on a bolster, pillow, the mat. Releasing all tension in the knees. Softening through the calves and the shins all the way to the heels. Tops and bottoms of the feet. And then letting the toes just feel light. So today, instead of asking you to move into a seated position, you may stay in your Shavasana for as long as you like. And in this position, if you would like to draw hands to heart space or an Anjali Mudra, you may do so. Or just find that space in your heart if you don't feel like moving, for gratitude for your practice today, for our practice together. Thank you so much, as always, for being here, for your support, and for taking time out for yourself. Namaste.